That day was special. Special in the face of what was to be, of what could be, my destiny and yours, through resonance and reality. Nearing my first objective, I slid open the claustrophobic grating of the vent I had spent the best part of 2 hours crawling through. With finesse, my scaly hands are smooth and without friction, just like my blackened leathery suit, and I slip, like the snake that I am, from ceiling to floor in complete silence. And there she was, in all her glory. My target, unaware of my presence, was staring at a mirror with her back turned to me. Her naked, celestial skin was like pure alabaster, and her long, ghost-white hair and bulbous head obscured her large, violet glowing eyes from my sleek entrance into her protected abode. To her side, leaning against her desk, was her mystical stave. A weapon of terrible, alien potential. The swan statuette, atop the shaft of this glorious artifact, was said to be the source of all her power over the earth. Preparing myself for the kill, I slide my silvery blade, etched with the very runes her species adored, from my concealed sheath. In that instant, the marrow in my body began to shift in the confines of my tactical gear, and my scales morphed, giving way to human skin. Still silent, I can feel my body loosen, my muscles change, allowing for greater speed in my sleeker human form. Suddenly, I am gripped by tunnel vision, and I barely take note of anything trivial in her chamber. My shifting serpentine eyes could only focus on the area of where her nape would be. Adjusting the hilt in my fist, I watch as the last of the creators, of my combined species, waved and pampered her hair with a golden brush. Once I had completely shifted, and silently stepped 3 meters toward my target, I could hear her singing softened melodies with my mammalian cochlea. Ellen Shanatukilishwan. I take 4 more steps. Alina Ken's Hanadoom. I take 2 more. Suddenly, she stopped humming. I halt, my right leg bent at the knee. I was so focused that I had forgotten about her brushing, and glared at her stalled hands that had been so frivolously busy. The muscles controlling my spine tightened. It was then, in that moment, that I realized my mistake. It was not the mirror on her polished glass desk that had alerted her to my presence, nor any noise of my own making. It was, quite simply, my reflection slithering on her pristine swan. That was it. I pounced, I leapt and lunged through the air with my prepared bend at the knee, fueling my thrust with full energy. She turned, just out of reach of her precious staff, and, before she could utter a damning, mystical word to protect herself, my special blade pierced her beating, godlike heart. You, she gurgled, glaring into my human pupils with her swirling, galactic vision. You will never control us, I hissed, plunging my sword deeper, as I forced her shocked, struggling form onto the polished, marble-tiled flooring with a resonating thud. You, the humans, and the Anunnaki, she spluttered, the glow steadily waning in her glare. Without me, you will all cease to be. No, I shouted, holding her by the neck with my offhand. We will live, and we will rule this world, our world, without you. The songstress could only smile at me, as if pitying my justification. You, above all, should not believe lies, she whispered in my ear. Enough of this, I screamed in her face. You have done nothing but lie to all of us, forcing us into slavery with your warped chanting. From this day forth, we are unafraid of mortal gods, such as you. You may understand, she wheezed, pointing weakly with her left hand at the rod of power leaning against the desk. We shall. I shall, return. Still staring my victim in the eyes, I watched as her beautiful, violet glow disappeared, forever imprinted on my soul, for what would become my eternal torment. I finally gasp and catch my breath. My hands, still gripping blade and throat, loosen, only to be replaced by the sensation of clammy sweat gracing my palms. Slowly, I let go of both, and rise above her slain cadaver, staring at her frozen smile. Glancing to my right, I take note of the eerie strobe lighting above my head, spilling their illumination on the swan staff. Stepping through her pink blood without care, I reach out for the silvery weapon that was said to be salvation incarnate for both my races. Before touching the sacred stave, I pause, and my hand violently shakes. Glaring at my youthful skin and red fingernails, I wonder why I am suddenly so afraid of grasping my second objective. Her voice, I could hear her speaking to me like a phantom in my mind. Without me, you will all cease to be. I shall, return. Still, I hesitate, recalling her chilling, prescient words, and just mere inches from grasping her terrible weapon of sound and dreams. Cursing her twisted spirit with a thought, I recall my lord's orders, and, with my slender fingers, I finally clasp it by its cold, alloyed shaft. Awakened in an instant, the metallic swan, that was once dormant, outstretched its dazzling wings and screeched before my widened eyes. I wished for death, for what I saw next, was the revelation of existence. Like a torrent, my mind was not my own, I was swept away, my thoughts crushed, by visions of the past, present and future, of what is, and what could be, of what is to pass. Every echo of existence that resonated throughout space and time chimed repeatedly in my mind, my soul. Guilt racked my feeble senses, senses absorbed by glowing colors of light streaming through my shallow existence. I saw everything, everything of what is, of what could be, and what is to pass with every melody and choice. I could not scream. I was too enthralled, too connected to the pain of existence, to the shackles of, what I once considered, reality. All I could do was stare in awe at what I saw, the glory of existence ringing like millions of synchronized bell towers in the light of creation. Then, in the ever-changing scope, in the distance of this rippling sound, was the bleak, inevitable death of all that could happen. She, the songstress, she knew. She knew I was coming. She foresaw her potential fate, and now, after all I had seen in the glory of her song and illumination, deliberately or not, knew she had passed to me her cursed torch, a torch of promising light of what can be. In the presence of this resonating chorus, which I could not fully comprehend, I crumpled to the flooring, shaking, spraying foam and bile over my chin, unable to release my tight grasp of the stave in my mentally besieged prison. It was eternity, then I see darkness. I wished that had been the end of it, I really do, but it was not to be so. Awakening in the deaf silence of that falsely lighted chamber, I found myself lying in my victim's pink, congealed blood and my cold, red vomit. I tried to move my legs, but only my hands and arms had any sense of locomotion, and my neck was stiff. I was disorientated, chilled to the core, trying to forget what I had seen and experienced in complete synaptic shock. The staff was nearby, lying on the pristine, stony white tiles with its swan statuette tilted, staring at me, as if welcoming me to the passage of endless times. Trying my hardest, I crawled through her blood, slipping and sliding through my grief and regret. Finally, on the verge of tears, I reached the sealed windows of her chamber and, extending my arm and hand as far as they could go, I activated the digital security panel to open the armored military shutters. It was then that I felt the first tremor shudder throughout the skyscraper's structure. Ever desperate, I clung to the window ledge from my prone position with both hands, trying to work my legs to see the outside world. As I willed it to happen, I instead watched one of my hands shift from skin to scales. I had no control. It was as if I was a newborn mammal, trying to learn how to control my natural functions. I could feel my eyes shifting out of control and, as my glare finally met with my reflection amongst the cityscape in the distance, I stared at my slanted pupils. My lush, long, once blonde hair was now nothing more than a mixture of reddish pigments. Eyes dilating, a chill surges down my spine, and I recall a memory, now familiar to me through the curse of my visions, of a young woman, her hair a blazing orange. But then, as I focused beyond the precipice of that fateful chamber, I saw the smoking trails of death streaking across our blue hemisphere, and, beyond the towers of grey stone, saw the first of many radioactive clouds reach for the ozone layer, as bright and as brilliant as the life-giving sun beaming its warmth onto my elegant face. Shocked, I fell to my knees, and the explosive, blasting wave met the windows, shattering them into shards that flew over my scalp. I can only release tears and tremble for what had transpired before me, wishfully hoping for an alternate reality that was not meant to be. My vision faint, I crawled and pulled myself to return to the swan staff, baring my teeth as I tried forcing my legs to move. Finally, my left leg and then my right obeyed me. Pushing myself with faster momentum, I slid my way over the glass shards and sparkling dust, and, recoiling from touching it, I stare, worrying if it should repeat to me what it had done so before. On feeling the second shockwave reverberate throughout the tower, I could no longer hesitate. Reaching, I clasped the swan staff by the shaft and screamed. Nothing happened. Crying, my face creasing, I held it tightly against my chest, rolled on my back, and hyperventilated in silence, knowing what needed to be done, in my highest hopes, to atone for all I had wrought on what was to become a holocaust. The dawn of a dark age, that day, had risen.